No, we're not late, Robert Hodgins. We're actually right on time. We usually start right around 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's just an occasion I do set this up earlier and have a page up, but I was running around doing other stuff and I looked up and realized, hey, it's getting nigh on the time to do the live stream. So here we are. We've got, I show 13 people in the room, 2 of whom have checked in along with Nemesis 851, who made a comment about having a wheel on the grass. Sorry about that. That video is doing actually pretty well right now. Apparently, a lot of people are upset at the idea of being fined for how you park in your own driveway, or at least near your own driveway. David Peterson's checking in from Hill Country in Texas. How's the coffee? Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Paul Lemke. Now I have a thing that says that the connection is and that's where I was last Sunday. So I mentioned I did not do a live stream last Sunday. If you showed up here and you found this room to be empty, that's where I was. I was at the Stoll Museum in New Baltimore, Michigan, and I got to drive their Turbo Museum in New Baltimore, Michigan, and I got to drive their turbo car, the car that model is based off of right there. So I did post that. So the elderly, robbing them of the little money they have near the end of life. I did a video on that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't talk about it a lot simply because it's not my area of specialty, but I did do a video on it not too long ago. Pretty Butterfly checking in from Detroit proper. Detroit proper. Thank you for checking in. I assume that means within the city bounds, as we say. NC Farmer, what's up, Steve? I enjoy your videos. Well, thank you. I thank you. Stephen Shaw, a lot of pauses in this stream. And I did get a notice that flashed across my screen that said, hey, there's a problem with the connection. It shouldn't be any different than ever, but you know how that goes. Richard Green, watched your Turbine episode, very informative. Charlie Wachoff, Steve, doing any car shows this year? I don't know about any car shows other than the Woodward Dream Cruise, which I will be at, rain or shine. If it rains, I bring the Viper. If it rains, I don't bring the Viper. If it's sunny, I bring the Viper. But either way, I will let people know where I am if you want to swing by. If you're at the Dream Cruise, look me up. I'll be there chit-chatting. I'll probably be giving books away or something. You never know. Nemesis 851 calling in from the Canadian Rockies, checking in. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Alfredo Gonzalez, Stevie, what's up from California? See, if you put a bunch of E's at the end of Steve, it becomes Stevie. So, Tigerman99515, sorry I'm late. Hello from AZ. And John Brancola checking in from Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm getting another warning about the connection being unstable. I apologize. I do not have anything I can do about that. It's the exact same connection I'm always using, and I do what I can. So Bob Summers says, hey, you might actually have 2 viewers in Norman, Oklahoma. Keith Green, loved the 500-plus Woodward Dream Cruise video on VinWiki. Yeah, that's right. I talked about the Dream Cruise and all the people who had tickets at the Dream Cruise. So Joel Kirschman says the connection is better than it was a couple of minutes ago. And of course, now that you say that, I'm getting a thing saying your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. So I'm going to keep going until people literally can't communicate with me. Alfredo Gonzalez, is it possible to still buy the Lemon Law Bible signed by you? Yeah, email me directly at steve@lehtoslaw.com, steve@lehtoslaw.com, and I will hook you up. From me, they're really cheap. Inexpensive, I guess I should say, right? This is me typing without trying to touch any of the cables. There we go. There you go. Bill McMahon checking in from Minnesota. Jan Gunnar, are you following the IHF World Ice Hockey Championships? Yes, I am, and Finland lost in a shootout. What is up with that? Finland beat the USA a couple days ago. Because it's it happens, but you got to have a winner or loser. You can't have this tie stuff, So, Rider says, could be the fault of solar flares and Welsh Dragon 99. Is it a YouTube problem rather than a channel problem? Well, if other people are having trouble elsewhere on YouTube, it's a YouTube problem. So I can't imagine down detectors detecting a problem on my channel by itself and saying it's YouTube. Yeah, sorry. I may have to check out because I've got a warning up here and it says that my thing is bad. Well, got 121 people in the room. Laura saying, yes, down detector says problem. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I've had this happen before. It's not at my end. I'm doing everything the exact same way I always do every single thing I do. So, oh boy. And we do have 180 people in the room. And I'm getting people saying both it's good and it's horrible. Good and horrible. Try fingers, you cleared up here. Mr. Phil seems to be much better now. Wayne guy says, I refreshed the page. Now it sounds fine. Ian Halusiak checking in from Central New Jersey. Scott Argyle says it could be the polo shirt. That very well could be. Yeah, I'm just going to keep plowing ahead until everyone disappears. I've had problems before where it crashed so bad that it showed me 0 people in the room. So, we'll see. Deborah Lambis is good. Joined a minute ago. And of course, you joined just as we're discussing whether or not people can hear me talk. Oh, I don't know what else to tell you. Appreciate that. Hey, by the way, Duncan Campbell's checking in from Melbourne, Australia. What's happening? Technical issues, but beyond that, not much. Hey, Mark Goggin checked in from Chicagoland, and Mark has been popping up from time to time on my comment page. And I noticed that he keeps odd hours. At least I see the comments checking in at very odd hours. But thank you. My channel's awake 24 hours a day, whether or not I am. So, Timothy Norman from Crown City, Ohio. Crown City, Ohio. Kotax East at 294K or 69F and clear in Denver. It is 78 degrees where I am right now. We didn't even have about a high, about 80 degrees. It's been warm the last few days. Finally. So, Pengoose capybara. The capybara, I believe, is the world's largest rodent. Checking in from Colorado Springs. I know that there's not a capybara in Colorado Springs unless it's one in a zoo or something. I think it's a South American animal, but they're big. They're big. So. Joe S., great video on the Turbine car. Would you have liked to buy it if you had the chance? Not really. I suspect they cost so much money that I could never afford one, number one, obviously. But number two, you can't get parts for it. So if something breaks on it in the engine or even parts of the drivetrain, you have to manufacture your own or park it. And I would hate to have something like that. I couldn't enjoy it. So I'd rather see one in Jay Leno's hands or at the Stahl Museum where they will have it, maintain it, take it out from time to time. You can go look at it. You can see it all you want. But I think it's a difference between owning a tiger or going to see one at the zoo or in the wild. Okay. I want to look at one. I don't want one in my house. So Tom got snow at elevation in Utah last night. Wow. It's pretty impressive. JP's checking in. Howdy from sunny and hot Columbia, South Carolina. For those of you who are curious, a lot of my Columbia and South Carolina and stuff from the Carolinas in general. JP's my hookup on that. He hooks me up with all that stuff. So there you go. Laura's checking in from Texas. Fixing it blind, help from socialist. And also, hey, from Sarnia, did you catch any of the Mecum auction this week? I have not seen it. I know they'll rerun it endlessly on MSNBC, though, and I'll check it out. There's a couple cars that were going across the block that I found very interesting. For instance, the convertible Hemi Cuda, which I believe did not hit reserve, but there's very few of them left in the world. I think it got up to $4 or $5 million in bids and did not sell. One of them I think sold for $7 or $8 million a few years ago, so $4 million would be low. And then of course the '88 Daytona. It's a blue version of that car right there that's owned by Chrysler. The Chrysler engineering car was also supposed to cross the block. I don't believe it hit the reserve either. So I'll check it out and get more details. I'm fascinated by both of those stories. Big Smoke, do you just use jet fuel on the turbine car or kerosene? You can use either one. It's multi-fuel. It'll burn kerosene, diesel, alcohol, home heating oil. You just can't put leaded gasoline in it, which isn't available anymore, but back then it was. So, Robert Bradley, greetings from Florida. JD lives not in a Toyota. Heaven forbid. Oh, boy. Rostam Ostman, I like your content, Steve. Well, thank you for checking. I appreciate that. I like your comment. Jim McIntosh, ever think of tackling veterans issues? It depends on what the issues are, and if they're brought to my attention and I think they're interesting, I'll cover them. I don't handle veterans issues in my law practice. My law practice is very, very narrow. All I do is pretty much lemon law. I don't even handle other stuff anymore. I used to do a lot of consumer protection, but now it's almost exclusively lemon law. Pengus, what do you think of the new F-150 electric truck? I saw it. They unveiled it, and the president drove around in a little bit. It looks interesting, but we'll have to see. Number one, I know they're selling really well. They got a lot of pre-orders for it, but we'll have to see how it goes. JD lives. Yes, your channel is awesome. Learn a lot. Siddharth, Sean, have you ever been to the Reno Automotive Museum? No, I have not. Mr. Phil, 1969, when they fired up the turbine car, what did they use? I believe it had kerosene in it. We actually asked, because we were curious to know. I actually asked before they fired it up. I said, how old is it? Because the car had been in a collection for a while. We weren't sure when it was most recently driven. And somebody said, no, it's got fresh kerosene in it. John Keith, hi from Montreal. Miguel Guerrero, why don't you like Toyota? It's an old joke. I don't have anything against Toyota. But a long time ago, I did a video where I was joking about car companies, and I said, or heaven forbid, a Toyota, in reference to the fact that I'm from Detroit. And there was a time where if you were in Detroit and you drove a foreign car, you got grief from everybody. Everybody. So I have nothing against Toyota, but I've mentioned before, here I am at my age, and I have yet to own a foreign car. I've never owned a foreign car. I got a foreign boat motor. I've got a Honda boat motor, but I just never owned one. Would you like to visit the ISS? Dave Arnold, is that the International Space Station? Not really. I'm not sure I could get over the claustrophobia of being in a little spaceship, getting up there. And then once I was up there, I might feel trapped. I don't know. To me, it wouldn't, I don't know. I like the view from up there, but they can do that with cameras as far as I'm concerned. So David Arnold, Donald Whittemore. Why is Harvard Law School considered special? Largely because of how old it is. Harvard's been around 1 trillion years, and it's been around so long that it just has a reputation. There are other law schools in America that are probably just as good, but Harvard is without question one of the ones that people think of with prestige. So D. Woods says, hey, turbine car running French fry biodiesel. You could do that. In fact, I know guys who were present when it was run on peanut oil. And they said that if you smelled the exhaust, it smelled like you were cooking, making cookies. So, Rallius 1. Yesterday here in Minnesota, we got upper 80s and high humidity. Y'all seeing over there in Michigan today? Yes, we are. It is humid out right now and 78 degrees, and it'll get up to 80. Oh, boy. And Mike Hakulik, I keep mispronouncing it. I apologize. Checking from Montreal, Canada. Chris Woodhouse, have you ever had anyone ask for help getting out of a timeshare? I think I've been asked. I don't handle that, but I actually do have a guy that I've spoken to recently who's an attorney in California, and one of his specialties is dealing with that. And I might do a show with him one of these days where we discuss the issues with timeshares. Timeshares are kind of like RVs in that you don't want to get into one unless you know what you're doing. Because once you know what you're doing, you wouldn't want to get into one. I mean, it's so. But we'll talk about that. Nico Pesla, don't start without me. There you go. Rhonda Maxwell, what's on your mind, Steve? Well, you know something? Whatever's on your mind. Mark Paul, I'm at an In-N-Out right now. They say they miss you. Sure they do. I miss them. In-N-Out burger right there. In-N-Out. We've discussed this before. I think they have the greatest hamburgers on earth. We do not have them in Michigan, which is also where Dale does MTB. Is it mountain biking? Hello, Steve, suffering from People's Republic of Kalamazoo County. Kalamazoo County. I got a gal in Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo, one of those fun town names. I mentioned that before. TJ Ziegler, greetings from Baden, Austria. I'm in my 20s and finally got my operator's license. What's your opinion on roundabouts? Are they a common nuisance in Michigan? I like roundabouts. The problem is they confuse most people, including many people who got their driver's licenses and took the driver's ed long before roundabouts existed in Michigan. And so people get confused by them. And I pulled up to a roundabout before with 5 cars stopped in front of me at a yield sign, and there's nobody in the roundabout. It's like they're waiting for the sign to change. So I like them. They've installed a couple near me, and it resolved issues. There was a couple bad 4-way stops that you'd pull up, and there's nobody there. And you got to stop, and now you just zoom through it. So I like them. Rhonda, have you driven the new C8 convertible Corvette? No, I have not. I like the C8 Corvette. In fact, I've got a model one right there. And I've had several people ask me, because I'm not normally a big Corvette guy. I've just never been a Corvette guy. I don't know. Corvettes are one of those things, So never was a big Corvette guy, but I like the C8s. They look nice. David Person's Place says, hey, Steve, hi from Austin. And they also have In-N-Outs there. Yeah, In-N-Outs started in California and they're working their way across the country very slowly. I don't know if they'll make it to Michigan before I'm gone. Fortis Huckleberry says Whataburger are good. Although they're in the South, though. Never had that. Chris Woodhouse says Dave Ramsey's declared war on the timeshare industry. Most of them are just a scam. Yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things. And I can tell you that a guy I know who's fairly smart went down to Florida and told me, he goes, I'm going down there. I'm taking advantage of a free cruise I got. And I go, how'd you get the free cruise? He goes, all I've got to do is sit through a presentation on timeshares. I go, dude, it's not worth it. And he goes, no, but think about it. He goes, I'm a smart guy. I sit through the presentation. I get up and I leave and I go, I want my free cruise now. And I talked to him a little while later and he goes, yeah, I got a free cruise. I go, what else? He goes, well, I got a timeshare. Irving Briscoe, did you know that the Morgan car is still being produced and looks like the 50s model? Yes, I actually know a guy who's a dealer for Morgans of those little things. Yeah. They're funky looking cars, but yeah, they're very, very cool. So Tom says, every time the connection glitches, I refresh my link and it fixes it. So there you go. Dan Young says, try the diverging diamond interchange. It is strange at first. I've seen those, I think, on YouTube and other news sources, and they've got just the weird thing where all these different, and I guess it works if everyone understands them. No one does. Sam Spade, hello. Love your shows. Thank you. Rick Nurka. So what is the burger joint you prefer in Michigan? As far as chains go, I like Culver's. Culver's is very good. It's, it's a fast food place, but they make them and they taste really good. They're expensive, but they're good. Mark Goggins says, I've actually gotten the prize and kept saying no to the timeshare pitch. They've got great salesmen, though. And there you go. So it's kind of like when you go to the state fair or a county fair, and they've got some weird game, right? And it's like, ring the bell and win the prize. And you walk over and you whang it as hard as you can, and it goes like this high up, or something like that. And then, of course, the guy who works there can do it all day long because he's practiced. And so I've always thought that the timeshare industry must be like that, where only like 1 in a million people can walk in off the street and actually survive the pitch without walking out of there with a timeshare. That's why they can afford to give away a free cruise if you just sit through it. So it's pretty impressive. Absent Star says there's a Culver's in Destin, Florida. We'll check it out next time I'm there. Rhonda Maxwell says yummy butter burgers, and that's what Culver's sells. JP says there are 3 Culver's in South Carolina. Yeah, they're spreading out. They're getting out there. So Steve Kelleher, I live 15 miles from the home of the first Culver's in Sauk City, Wisconsin. Yeah, and I knew they were from someplace over in Wisconsin, Minnesota area. The first one I ran across was in Houghton, Michigan, home of Michigan Tech University. And they went into the site of a previous, I think it was a Perkins before that. And I think before that was a Big Boy. But now it's a Culver's, and it's amazing. So Sam Spade, antique car collector. I have a 1964 and a half Mustang convertible. I have a question, and I'm not trying to start an argument here, but I know it's going to cause some debate. But everyone calls some Mustangs 1964 and a half, okay? And the question is, what does the title say? Does the title say 1964? Does it say 1964 and a half? Or does it say 1965? What does the title say? So all I'm curious about is, what does the actual title say? So if you've got one, you would know that. So please let me know. Thank you. I've always wanted to know somebody who had one so I could ask them that question. Kotak Zisa says we have a couple of Culvers in Denver. Only ate there once, and that was in South Dakota. They're on it. Yeah, South Dakota. They're on it. Baldylocks McFetters love Frisch's Big Boy. Not sure where that is. Is that related to like Bob's Big Boy or the Big Boy chain? Pengoose, if you got rid of your Viper and it could replace with any supercar, what would you buy? That's a tough one. I haven't really thought about that. I'm not really sure. I admire a lot of the foreign supercars, your Lamborghinis and your Ferraris and so on, but I've never actually driven one. So I'm not sure. I had driven a Viper before I bought this one, so I knew that I would enjoy it. So, if I'm going to be doing that on a more often basis, I would need to drive the cars first. I haven't really thought about that, though, so I don't know. I might go with something older, maybe an old Dodge Charger or something that I wouldn't feel bad driving, so we'll see. So Lori Van Hoosier says, rock this chat by smashing the thumbs up button. She puts it all in caps. And this despite the fact I've never seen her name before. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tom, Texas Roadhouse makes a great burger. I'm not sure I've eaten at one. I've driven by them before. David Phillips says it's a 64 and a half production date. Okay, I understand. The question is, what does the title say? Because the title is going to give a year and make and model and so on. Fixing It Blind says it says 65. So just curious. Dave Beeler says Ford GT. I've heard they're lousy on long trips. They might be. I've never ridden in one. My good friend Mark Lieberman at Nostalgic Motor might be able to hook me up with a ride in a GT one of these days. So we'll see. Tigerman 99515. Did Dodge assemble the Viper in a special plant? Yes. They had 2 different locations depending on the time frame, but they had a Viper assembly plant down in Detroit that was set up specifically to build the Vipers. And you could actually get tours of it back when it was operating. I never got one, unfortunately. Now it's closed. But apparently it's a pretty cool place. So there's videos on the internet of them doing this. The cars were basically hand built. I mean, they were pretty much hand built. Very, very cool. Jeff Holland, I'm still a Five Guys, man. Simple, traditional burger. Five Guys are good, and we've got Five Guys in Michigan. I've eaten there a few times. I like the fact you order fries. They just give you a big bag of fries. It's almost like, hey, look, if you order a burger and you get fries, just have some fries. They give you a bushel of fries. So, Chris Woodhouse says timeshare companies are suing lawyers that help people get out of timeshares. Are they really? I've not heard that. Oh, boy. Cutter Spalding says, hey, Steve, where's that $100 bill? I don't see it. It's there. I saw it. Nemesis 851, do you like the Prowler? Not really. I was never a big fan of the Prowler. The Prowler came out shortly after the Viper in terms of the concept, and there's a lot of similarities to it. And I like the idea. It was certainly an interesting looking car. I like what they were trying to do. I didn't care for the way it looked, and it did not come with a good engine. It was not known as being a hot rod. It looked like one, but didn't do it for me. So Robert Bradley says, same title question for a 70 and a half Camaro. It's got to be a 1970, the late release date. Yeah, again, it's one of those things where I've just been curious about that. That's all I care about. Richard R., have you checked out the Lotus supercar? I'm a big fan of the Lotus Esprit Turbo. I love that car. I had a ride in one once, and I realized that it would be a very difficult car for me to enjoy on a daily basis. And I'm tall. So for me, even my Viper is tough. I had to lower the seat in my Viper. So Jason Johnson, no T-shirt. Well, I'm wearing a Stalls shirt today. Sundays, I occasionally break the rules. I dress up for Sunday. But Stalls, it was a week ago that I was driving their turbine car, so I figured I'd wear the shirt today. So there you go. Grana Saber says Mississippi state law says to get a bill proposed, they need 20% of the population from each of their 5 districts to propose it. They only have 4 districts. And so, yeah, that's an interesting story. I did not do a video on that. But what happened was somebody got something on the ballot by getting 20% of each district to sign, and then they proposed it. And somebody said, well, yeah, but technically the rule says you got to get 20% from each of the 5 districts, and we've only got 4 now. The 5th one got abolished a while back or something. And so the law needs to be changed, and apparently the Supreme Court said, well, until they change it, technically you can't propose new laws. So it's kind of strange because they're kind of ruling against the will of the people, I believe. So JD lives, what kind of a boat do you have? Oh, I've just got a canoe. I've got a 17-foot Grumman flat-sterned canoe with a 5-horsepower Honda boat motor. But I do it specifically so I can take it out on lakes. I've had it on Lake Superior. I've had it on Lake Huron. And I've had it in a bunch of rivers. Although in rivers, I got to be careful about hitting the lower unit. So there you go. How is Canadian Robot Lady making out with her lawsuit? I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Have you checked out the Lotus Electric, Richard R? No, I've not. I'm not familiar with it. Ever in Transit says life is rough when you're 5'18". Yeah, I'm 5'14", and that is tough. So, David Person's place. What do you think of the old CJs, the 5s and 7s? I like the old CJs. I'm not too crazy about some of the styling changes they made. The square headlight Jeeps and so on. But the problem is that the old CJs now are getting real old and real collectible and probably more difficult to maintain. So One of these days, I am going to probably get another Army truck. I just don't know if I'll do it this summer or next summer. So we'll that's on the back burner. I got a whole bunch of stories and things to do on the back burner. So Paul Baldessari, have you ever been to the Mullen Museum in Oxnard, California? It'll knock your socks off. No, I have not. I'm not even familiar with it. I've been to the Chino Air Museum in California, but I'm not familiar with the Mullen Museum in Oxnard. I'll have to check it out. Pen Goose Capybara, my wife said I can get a Lambo when I can get in and out of it 10 times in a row. The sad part is that if you see me getting out of my Viper into my Viper, it looks complicated and painful. And it's not because I'm terribly uncoordinated. It's just how tall I am that you and regular people have a hard time getting in and out of it also. I mean, if you're not used to climbing into a car like that, it can get difficult. So oh boy. John Ellis, what model of Army truck are you considering? I used to have one. So I'm going to get one similar to the one I used to have, an M35A2 deuce and a half. The one I had was 1969 with a Continental multi-fuel engine. I'm going to get one very similar to that. I'm not so married to the exact year or the exact, mine was an AM General, but they were made by several different companies. I don't really mind as long as it's going to be that era deuce and a half. I might get one that's bobbed instead of having three axles, only having two and shortened bed. I don't know. Mine previously had the full bed, so we'll see. So, Sammy boy, are you into Porsches? Not terribly. I mean, I'm familiar with them. I respect the engineering. I know people who've got them, but they were never my big thing. So, Tom, what in the world would you do with it? An Army truck? Drive it around and look for things to run over. Off-road, especially. So, yeah, Wild Bill, my dream of buying a Miata was destroyed when I figured I'd have to cut a hole in the roof to drive it. I mean, you can always get a convertible, right? I mean, they do make a Viper convertible. They make, all kinds of vehicles convertibles. But the problem is that even then, if the windshield is here, the top of your head is here, it's still not terribly comfortable, So, Jerry 4260, check out the M939 series. I'm not that familiar with which one that is. So, I used to subscribe to a military vehicle collector magazine that had all that stuff in there. So, DJ AM, I see surplus trucks on Selfridge Air Base. Yeah, there's a lot of, also you can find a lot of these Michigan and National Guard places. You drive by them, they got rows and rows and rows of them. So, Tom, Steve doesn't do foreign. Yeah, that's the one thing. If I bought a Porsche or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, I'd have to finally break down and buy a foreign car. I've made it this far without buying one. I might actually just coast the rest of my life and never buy one. Christopher J. Murray Jr., the Unimog. I'm familiar with the Unimogs. I knew a guy who had one. I've never actually spent much time with one. So, Slim Shady 76 is something you don't want to drive long distance. Could be referenced to a lot of things. I drove my deuce and a half from Detroit area up to Copper Harbor and back twice. And you ain't lived till you've done a 10-hour drive in an Army truck that's got 10 knobby tires and a cloth roof and a diesel stack right there. And I mean, you're wearing earplugs, 55 miles an hour, just down the highway. And by the time you get there, your entire body's numb. It's just numb. And, the big sticker on the dashboard says, hearing protection required. And that's put there by the military. So, Otter Fellas, is there a discount for not being a full two deuces? David Cudahy, hello from Lockport, New York. John Ware, Corvettes are the most fun to drive. I need to talk to some Corvette guys because, like I said, I'm not a big Corvette guy, but I know people who are. But the question is, how much better does the C8 handle? It's got to handle a lot better with the mid-engine thing going, right? So, somebody thinks they may have spotted the hundo, but they're not correct. I'm looking around, trying not to give it away. Oh boy. Red Bull, what's the top speed on a Deuce? They'll do 55 easily. It's a 5-speed, the one I had, and it would do 55. It'd probably go a little bit above that if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to. Better though is it's got a creeper first gear, and it's also got a 2-range transfer case. So if you want to, you can put it in low range first gear, and it will literally move at like walking speed. But the good news is it won't stop for anything or run stuff over, drive through buildings and so on. So yeah, I can't drive 55 Fortis Huckleberry. Well, you can barely drive 55. Let's put it that way. Ant Combust has spotted Ben. Sam Spade, would you buy a Tesla? I would consider buying a Tesla. Yeah. I still, and we've talked about this before. I'm still not completely ready to dive into the electric thing yet, simply because of my driving needs. So, Road Wrench, do you need a CDL to drive the M35? No. M35 Deuce and a half weighs just under the limits where a lot of stuff kicks in that you need special stuff for trucks. My Deuce and a half had a civilian plate on it, just an all-purpose passenger truck plate on it. So, Tiger Man, could you haul your Viper in the back of the Deuce and a half? Almost. The problem is the bed is so high off the ground, you need a really, really long ramp. So, Paul Baldessari says, I drove a Deuce and a halfs and a 5-ton cargo trucks in Vietnam. I preferred the 5-ton. Yeah, I've seen the 5-tons. I've climbed all over one, never drove one. I saw a couple of them at a car show, and one of them was a replica of a gun truck, 5-ton gun truck. And that's pretty cool. So, Jonathan Green, what's your opinion on the hydrogen cars? You know, I don't know that much about them. I know they exist, but I don't know much about them. And I'm always curious how safe something like that is, if they're carrying that much hydrogen around. I understand the conditions are different, but the Hindenburg was also a container of hydrogen that didn't end so well. Andy Guerin, Steve, I looked up pictures of your 1992 Daytona. That is still a sharp-looking car. Yeah, I like the way those cars looked. They were tiny. The old Daytonas, the not the oldest ones, but the ones from the early 90s. And the one I had is really, really neat looking. It's a cool car, a lot of fun to drive. But the one I had kept breaking timing belts. Dual overhead cam, the timing belt. So one of the reasons I don't like timing belts that much. So Bob Long, do folks in the UP use block heaters and battery warmers, or is that just the Dakotas and Canada? You know, I know people in the UP, and not any that I know of use block heaters. I think it's more a matter of whether they can park inside or not, because I think inside, like in a garage in the UP, it's not going to be that bad. But I'm sure some people up there do. But I know people who live in the Dakotas who just say, you've got to get a block heater. It ain't going to work otherwise. So, Fortis Huckleberry. What about CNG vehicles? I know Honda makes one running on natural gas. Yeah, I know there's a bunch of other stuff out there. I don't know that much about those. I've not seen any of those. So JP's dad used a block heater on the V8 cars up there in Canada, where it gets really cold in the wintertime. So Gary Weisenberger, Consumers Power has a refill station on Middle Belt in Livonia for trucks for CNG. Yeah, I've seen stations that sell it, but it's usually only like commercial vehicles and so on that actually use it, right? I don't know about civilian cars yet. Jason Johnson, he's my block heater all winter. I live in the UP. Boom, there we go. So we've got one person. Where are you located in the UP? Ballpark it for me. I just need to know, are you at the East End, the West End, the Q&A? I just like to know where my people are. Tryfinger says CNGs mainly used in public transportation. Ed McDonald says UPS might also use trucks that run on natural gas. FDSS says my truck has a block heater, but I live in North Carolina, so I never use it. Welsh Dragon 99, nuclear cars are the future, said everyone in the 1950s. And here's the thing. When I was doing research on the turbine cars, researched all the other cars of the time, and there was a car making the auto show circuit that was being touted as a nuclear car. And they just designed this car, and they put a weird thing in the back, but they never built a working model. They had no explanations of how it was going to work. They just, oh, it's a nuclear car. So anytime you mention cars in the era, people go, oh, yeah, there was a nuclear car. Because they called it a nuclear car, but it was not a nuclear car. It was just a show car. They called that. Don Jackson, have you heard about Rivian trucks? Yes, I have. Don't know much about them. Dana Oaks says, I believe I see the bill behind the 18-wheeler over Steve's left shoulder. No. And this does throw people off. But directly behind the WLLZ bumper sticker, I have a bunch of other bills and other stuff. Hang on. Whoa, it's getting kind of heavy. Hang on. Years of being a disc jockey. Come on. Anyways. So anyways. Behind that, I've got the Canadian $5 bill with the belted kingfisher on it. I've got two of them. Thank you very much. Got a bunch of Monopoly money here with the Simpsons on it. There we go. Got a Moose Jaw Outfitters bumper sticker. Not from the town of Moose Jaw, but an outfitter named Moose Jaw. K-Rock bumper sticker from before they changed formats and went to whatever they are now. And then I've got a Canadian 20, Canadian 10, and a Canadian 5. But this 5 does not have the belted kingfisher on it. So there you go. People often ask about what's behind me. Occasionally I say. Yeah, and a couple days ago, I did actually put the bill directly under the wheels of this truck. And then I moved it, and somebody kept saying, it's still there, it's still there. And it was just a reflection. So Rhonda Maxwell, show me the vet. Directly behind it is a W4 sticker, 106 FM. But yeah, this is a Corvette that needs to be dusted very, very badly. But yeah, you got your frunk. I don't know if I can open the frunk or not. I don't think I can. But yeah, so beautiful car. And sadly, they've stopped production on them right now because they're running out of parts. And it's not chips, it's all kinds of stuff. So 90 knots. You don't have much room left for anything else. Well, it gets to the point where I have to shuffle stuff in and out, I've run into problems like that. The gentleman who sent me this Shure microphone. This is actually a very important microphone. It's got a plaque on it, and I'm like, oh, I can't upset the symmetry up here. But likewise, the guy sent me this microphone, so I kind of wedge it in there. So I work with what I can. David Phillips, your maid service is falling behind. Oh, yeah, you're looking at my maid service right now. Oh, boy. TJ Trout, hey, Steve from Broomfield, Colorado. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Colorado's lovely. Been there a couple times. Jan Coburn, big fire in Calumet yesterday on 5th Street. Yeah, and it was pretty bad. For those of you who know, I often talk about the Italian Hall disaster where there was a cry of fire in a crowded theater on Christmas Eve 1913, and 73 people died trying to get out. There was no fire. And that happened in a town called Calumet. At the time, it was called Red Jacket, but everyone called it Calumet. And it's a neat little town. The town is still there. The Italian Hall is not. There's a park there now. But I've got friends up there. In fact, there's a store called Copper World. If you ever get up there, I urge you to visit and buy something. It's a fabulous store. And you come into town, you pass a church, and you kind of go to the right, and that's 5th Street. That's the main drag through town. And the Italian Hall is over on 7th. And am I right? Is that 5th Street? I think so. Now I'm second guessing myself. Hang on. Looking up Copper World. And yeah, Copper World is at 101 5th Street. So that's correct. So anyways, you come into town, you pass some really cool buildings, and all of a sudden the road straightens out, and there's the main street of Calumet, 5th Street. And right on the left-hand side is Copper World and a couple other really neat old buildings and stores. And on the right-hand side was a whole block of buildings. And there was a bad fire Friday night that they wound up calling in fire departments from all over, as far south as Houghton and up north and everywhere. And it was basically all night long just hosing down, and 3 buildings that were connected basically are total losses. So they're out there right now. It's being treated as a crime scene because it may have been arson. It's horrible that these buildings burned down like that. And like I said, I love that town. I love the people up there. I hope that everyone's okay, and I hope they get it cleaned up quickly. But there were stores and restaurants, and above them were apartments. Everybody got out, but as you can imagine, when you have a fire like that, you lose everything. So it's a tragedy. So Jan Coburn, love Copper World. Yeah, it's a very, very cool place. They're on the internet, by the way. Look up Copper World. The Basanos, the family that own it, have been there for a million years. And I got to know them as I was doing book promotion for my book on the Italian Hall disaster. And I've done book signings there. Every time when I talk to them, I bought tons of stuff from them. In fact, I bought like that. It's a copper ingot. It's a lead ingot. And I got both of those from Copper World. They sell, along with the touristy stuff, T-shirts and mugs and local crafts. They sell antiques and stuff having to do with the copper industry. It's very, very cool. Gray Wolf, do judges give you a hard time being a YouTuber? No, believe it or not, people I encounter in the legal profession actually kind of find me like a novelty. I'm not kidding you. I actually have people say, oh, wait, you're the guy who's on YouTube. And they seem to think it's a good thing. I've yet to meet anybody who's, didn't like it. Back when I worked in radio, I had occasions, wasn't an attorney yet. I remember being in court back when I was a disc jockey, and the judge asking me if she's going to hear about this on the radio tomorrow morning. What can I say? Yes, I'm going to make fun of you, Your Honor. Another story altogether. FDSS says, I like the judge that was on YouTube. I hope he comes back. If you're referring to Judge Middleton in Michigan, he's coming back this week. And he's saying that he's willing to accept, I think, that it was a misunderstanding. But he was live streaming on YouTube his hearings that were taking place on Zoom. And it's a public hearing. So he's got the right to do that. And I think it's a good thing. But there were a couple high-profile cases just happened across his desk that drew some bad attention, not to what he was doing, but to the litigants. And the Supreme Court administrator apparently contacted him and said something to the effect of, we're not too sure how good of an idea this is. So he said, okay, fine, I'll stop doing it. And then there's a backlash because he's so popular. So Eric W., first time wave to you, Steve, from Slovakia? Really? Thank you for checking in, my friend. I appreciate that. Welsh Dragon 99. Speaking of which, have you had your summons from Florida for criticizing that judge? You know what's funny about this is that I am convinced that the judge who got that letter and got so upset that he decided to hold the writer in contempt, and then his other judge, but from the same courthouse, who then found the guy in contempt, they forget that people outside the building are going to hear what happened and go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And the notion that you can't insult somebody just in general, because I'm not in the man's courtroom. I'm not even in his state, okay? But if I saw him on the street, I could walk up to him and go, excuse me, you're a nincompoop. I could. I couldn't do it in his courtroom, but I can do it anywhere else. And so, it's kind of funny because I know I actually had some people say, but Steve, could you get? No, I couldn't get in trouble for that. No, of course not. Ed McDonald, do you think Supreme Court proceedings should be televised? Yes. The U.S. Supreme Court is one of the last entities that actually thinks that somehow what they do is so important that people can come watch it, people can hear about it, people can look at artist renderings of it, but you can't let people actually watch it live on television. And it's not that many people would actually watch it, but it would be filmed. And I mean, it could be broadcast beyond like C-SPAN 4, but they could then show highlights of it on television and like newscasts and say, well, instead of saying, well, then, this justice asked this question, they could show it. And that would actually, I think, educate people. And I think since, you want most things in government to be easily accessible and understandable to the average person. There are some things that the government's got to do that are not that open and accessible, such as like military strategy. But Supreme Court proceedings, if I can go in and watch them in person, they should be televised. That's just open and shut. So thank you. It's a great question. Sir Dialot, what do you think is likely to happen to those judges for infringing the man's rights? Probably nothing. I think what's going to happen is I think the Court of Appeals is going to spin that around and reverse the man's conviction. And then hopefully somebody's going to speak up and go, shouldn't something be done? And we'll see what happens. So. Ian Hunter, ever drive an SVO? I knew a guy who had an SVO Mustang when those things first came out. I'm guessing, was it mid 80s? Trying to think what year that would have been. I drove in that. I rode in the car with the guy. I'm guessing about 86 or 87. It seemed like a pretty cool car, but it's been a while. So Tracy Stein, hello from the state with the best college football team. Haha, Ohio. Just so you know, Tracy, I wear t-shirts that people send in all the time. XX. And I've got a whole bunch of new shirts in the rotation. You'll see them in the upcoming week. And yet, to this day, no one has sent me an Ohio State shirt or a Michigan State shirt. And I've said specifically, I don't root for them in real life. But if someone sent me one of the shirts, I'd wear it. I just couldn't wear it the same week that Michigan is playing them, regardless of which one we're talking about. But I'm not a huge Michigan State fan. I'm not an Ohio State fan. But no one sent me the shirt. I actually had somebody last year ask me the weekend of the game, would you wear the shirt? And I said, yeah, I just wouldn't wear it today, but I'd wear it, so one of these days. Eric W., how about a Wisconsin shirt? I forgot if I've got one from the University of, but I know I've got one from other schools in Wisconsin. So Bob Long says wearing an Ohio State shirt in Michigan should get you a contempt charge. But my point is, as I said before, is I am a large supporter of education. And so underneath it all, Ohio State University is a good school. I might root against their football team, but I'm sure they're a good school. So I support education. So number one, education. Number two, football. Gregory Barnes, greetings from Clarksville, Tennessee. Originally from Bay City, Michigan. Dropping the top on my 2004 SVT Cobra after this. And then it's got some sunshine there. Thank you very much. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate that. Howard Schoonover says, speaking of shirts, a lot of YouTubers sell shirts. You could have one with a lawyer dog. I could look into that because that's something we joke about here quite a bit, including the lawyer dog over here, although there's on my screen, it's blocked by something. But I do have the shirts that say Lehto's Law on them, which you can get off of Zazzle. As of right now, I've made $116 off of Zazzle. I donated the first $100 to a cat rescue. So somewhere in a year or two, I'll donate another $100 to somebody. We'll see. Ian Hunter, Verner's, yes, no. I'm a Verner's fan, but I haven't had it in a while. But I know that it's still the folk remedy in Michigan. If you get sick with a stomach issue, Verner's is the cure. James Hicks, hello from sunny Fort Myers, Florida. Don Jackson, I want a lawyer goldfish. Why not? Eric W. may have to get one sent to you. An Ohio State shirt? Like I said, XXL. Rostam Osman, do you have any pets? I do not at this time, but if you watch my videos to the end, you'll see where it says, remember Milo and Wolfie? And Milo and Wolfie were two Shetland sheepdogs that I had. Wolfie passed away in 2017. Milo passed away in 2015. So, but not at this time. Sean Huntley, I have a 1957 Black's Law Dictionary for looking up obscure stuff. I love reading old dictionaries. To me, it's fun. Calix says, so Verner's is to Michigan as Canada Dry is to, well, Canada. There you go. Yeah, no, Verner's is old too. I mean, it was invented a long time ago. It goes back to like the early days of almost like, I think around the same time frame as like Coca-Cola and so on. I think the guy, Dr. Verner, I think maybe even served in the Civil War. But Wild Bill 57 says Lehto's Law t-shirts are very good quality. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Matthias, many greetings from Berlin, Germany. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I always appreciate hearing from Germany. And Matthias, I owe you a note. I'm going to send you something. Matthias sent me some international reply coupons. And international reply coupons are the things that Ponzi used in his Ponzi scheme. He didn't call it a Ponzi scheme, of course, but he became known for it. And what he claimed he was doing was buying international reply coupons in one country and then selling them in America for less. And by doing that, was making money. And all he needed was money from you to buy some more to make some more money. And so then he would just pay off the investors with money he got from the later people. And it was a scam. But the international reply coupon still exists. And Matthias sent me a couple. So I will send you a note, my friend. It's actually on my, I've got to-do piles. I've got one. I can reach it, I can see it, but it's unfortunately got a thickness to it. So there you go. Bender Fender, A&W versus Barks versus Dads. There's also a company called IBC. At least there used to be. That comes in glass bottles from the grocery store. That's very good. I used to be a big fan of root beer. Not so much anymore. I'm still just a Coca-Cola guy. I drink a lot of Diet Coke and some regular Coke from time to time. Nadal Studio Pro does remind us to beware the low-flying owls. Oh, Lori Van Hoosier. Just making sure it's not Hoosler. Van Hoosier, 498 watching. I got 496. Mike, 4843. Pemberton invented Coca-Cola. I've actually read a bunch of books. I've read a couple books in the history of Coca-Cola. It's a fascinating business history. If you like business history. Gary Weisenberger, Town Club. Let's remember you could go to Town Club and you get a thing. You could fill it with whatever different flavors you wanted. And they're like 700 different flavors. Welsh Dragon 99 says, of course, the original Coca-Cola had the anesthetic effect. And that's why they called it Coca-Cola, my friends. So, Hires root beer. There we go. Oh, Hype Ninja says IBC changed their recipe a few years ago. Oh, that's too bad. David Swan, my dad owned an A&W. My favorite for sure. Yeah, there's still a few A&Ws around. We talked about that also. I drive by a couple of them. I haven't been to one in a long time. But Ian Hunter says, I saw a license plate at a courthouse that said, suing for you. That's funny. Oh, boy. Howard Schooner versus the FedEx odometer case is weird. Why are they changing the odometers on in-service trucks? It doesn't seem like they changed them just before sale, but as part of standard maintenance. That's the question. But the only real point is that if you change it, you got to tell the future owners. That's all. But obviously, if they break, they could change them as maintenance. But if they got sold and an intermediary changed the odometer to get a better price at auction, that'd be a very serious problem. So a bunch of different things could be going on there. Jerry Ormston, was the car you drove last weekend loud? Because it sounded like it. Believe it or not, it was not loud. It's not that loud of a car. And when you watch the video I shot, and it's on my channel, if you haven't seen it yet, please go back about a week ago, I posted it. But I was at the passenger window shooting Bill Carey as he fired the car up. And Bill Carey is the guy off the cover of my book. Very, very cool that he was out there getting this car started. And so I filmed it as he started it because I wanted to film him actually turning the key. I thought that's a good moment to catch on film. Bill Carey turning the key for the first time. Car starts up. You can hear it whine as it builds up the speed. I then run around the front of the car and I put the camera right over the engine, but the hood is up. So it's really loud under the hood. Then I walk around to the driver's side, and Bill's got a little device he's reading some of the gauges with. I ask him how the gauges are doing. He said their gauges are fine. And then later, they close the hood, take it outside, and we drive it around the parking lot a few times. And it was really loud with the camera underneath the hood because the hood was up. A lot of the noise you hear from turbine engines is coming from the front end of the intakes. And at the tail end, the tailpipes are so far back with so much between them and the engine that they're not that loud back there. And so if you see it in the parking lot and you listen to it there, you realize it's not that loud. It's just different sounding. So it was very, very cool. It would not bother you to drive that car on a daily basis as far as the sound goes, okay? Our code with gaming says, nice to see you live. Well, thank you for checking in, my friend. I appreciate that. Metroid 2099 regarding right to repair. Do you think having the Magnus and Moss warranty actually be more narrowly defined or new legislation is necessary? The statute actually is appropriate, but the statute empowers the Federal Trade Commission to enforce it and to write better rules for it to clarify it. And the Federal Trade Commission needs to crack down on industry, because the only way you can really solve the problem of them saying things like, oh, if you open up this case, you void the warranty. We're not allowed to do that, but who's going to litigate that on their own, you know? So I really think it does take government action, but not a new law. It takes someone at the Federal Trade Commission to stand up and go, you know something, this law is on the books. It's our job to enforce it. We're going to start enforcing it. That's what it would take. So I don't know if that'll happen or not, but we'll see. ZKR99 says it should be spelled turban if that's the correct pronunciation. No. I don't know why. I don't know why about 1 out of 100 people get upset with me saying turban correctly. And turban, referring to the engine in that car, is Turbine, and it's pronounced turban. Now, if you want to, you can pronounce it turbine, okay? And I say that because there are two pronunciations for the word. They're both accepted. And so some words have two pronunciations. I hate to tell you this, but it's true. So the word often can be pronounced often, or it can be pronounced often. Take your pick. The T can be silent or pronounced. Doesn't matter. They're both correct. So that car is driven by a turbine engine. And if you want to say turbine, go right ahead. But I'll tell you right now, when we were in the lobby of the museum and Bill Carey walked in and we were discussing this topic, I said, hey, Bill, what kind of engines that car got? And he goes, a turbine? I go, you sure it's not turbine? And he went, no, it's not turbine. And in America, turbine is more commonly used. In Europe, they often say turbine. And I've had people say, but Steve, turbine is a hat. Or Steve, turbine is B-I-N-E. That should be turbine. Well, then it'd be a turbine engine, wouldn't it? Because it's G-I-N-E. Wouldn't that be turbine engine? No. So it is turbine. And if it upsets you, I'm sorry, but you're arguing with the dictionary. So what's funny about it, and yes, I'm breaking out the dictionary. Don't make me break out the dictionary. What's funny about it is the number of people. What? I actually had two of these in the wrong order. I didn't even notice that. What's the world coming to? Turbinectomy. There's such a thing. But the number of people who corrected me on my mispronunciation of a word I was pronouncing correctly, I'd say, did you check a dictionary? And they go, no. And I go, well, why do you check a dictionary? Because here's the Oxford English Dictionary. And it says that the turbine has two different pronunciations, turbine and turbine. So I don't care the fact that it bothers you if you don't bother looking at a dictionary before you correct me on the pronunciation of a word. So a bigger problem I have, and this is really a subtle thing. I wrote a book about that car. I've driven 3 of them. I've seen 6 of them, maybe 7 of them. I interviewed 50 people who worked on them, and not a single person who worked on them called them turbines. Every single person I talked to said turbine, 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 turbine. Okay? So for someone to see me talking about it and go, you got that wrong. Turbine's on your head. It's a turbine. It's a turbine. Really? You think, again, I've driven 3 of them. I've seen 6 of them. I interviewed 50 people who worked on the program. And yet you think I got this far without learning how to pronounce the word that is in the title to a book I wrote. Okay. So, oh, yeah, it's a pet peeve. What can I tell you? So, and I've had several people go, well, Steve, a turban is a hat, or it's a thing goes in your head. Yeah, there's words in the English language where a word can mean 2 different things. It just happens. Sorry. So. Try fingers. How do these people pronounce cupboard? Cupboard. Dave Beddoes, turban spelt with an A is a Persian headpiece. Of course, you got, aluminum versus aluminium. And I think that's more of a British versus American thing also. Well, Travis Kell says people tend to stick with their limited knowledge. What I think frustrates me, and I admit this is a personal problem of mine, there is no cure for this, I understand this, but for someone to actually type out a comment and hit send on YouTube takes more effort than looking the word up to double check. So before, I've done that before. I'm about to say something. I'm like, wait, am I correct on that or not? And I'll look it up first. And then I'll say, oh, I was right. Or no, I wasn't right. I'm mortified. I almost said something stupid. And I'll have people who will correct me on the pronunciation and they're wrong. When I point out to them that the dictionary says I'm right, then they'll say, well, the dictionary's wrong. Yes. You in your underwear in your parents' basement, you are the arbiter of all things pronunciation-wise, even more so than the dictionary. Oh, boy. Zorgat, a serpentine or serpentine belt? I've always heard serpentine, but I never thought about that one that much. There's also via and via. Like we got there via train. We got there via train. That's more of a regional thing, I think. So, Dino Manford keeps asking who won the $100 bill. I assume that we mean by at 100. No one. It's still there. So. Gregory Barnes likes the Tucker on the shelf, which I'm blocking with my head, but there's the Tucker. And by the way, at the Stahl Museum, when I walked in, they had a turbine car here and a Tucker there. Honey, I'm home. The Chad, the English language is hopeless. Well, it's not hopeless. It evolves. It just evolves. And people get upset by the fact that it's evolving. And so... I admit that occasionally I hear something and I'm like, but I'm sure you've heard that the word literally is now in the dictionary, meaning both the old literal sense and the new just really sense. So something can be, literally on fire. Or I can say that man is literally on fire, meaning that it was just something he was doing really, really well. You go, well, he's not literally on fire. No, he is in the second sense of the word, according to some dictionaries. So, Travis Kell, 2, 2, and 2. Oh, boy. Jason Johnson, this is the best live stream because it evolves. Never know where it's going. Fortis Huckleberry, Old Ye Shop. And what's funny is the Ye Shop, the Y-E, the Ye Shop, it actually wasn't a Y. It was actually a symbol that was replacing the T and the H that goes back in old days. And so it would be the shop. But people would say Ye Old Shop because they just saw what looked like a Y because the symbol for TH had disappeared from our language. So ITW history, then what word now literally means literally? I think you have to repeat the word and say literally, literally. It's the only solution. So the man was literally on fire. Oh, you better put him out then. Wild Bill 57 says, I just hate the fact that you're welcome has been replaced with no problem. I got it worse. I hate it when they just say, have a good one. Have a good one. When did that become acceptable? I'm not talking about just people. I'm talking about like businesses. Have a good one. You have a good one. Bart Foster, actually, literally. That would work too. I like the repetitiveness, the literally. Welsh Dragon is actually still means literally. So are those homonyms? D Wood, don't go into the motor versus engine thing. It's funny because there are some rules, but they go right out the window because you've got boat motors and electric motors, but car engines, but then people will say like, what kind of motor you got in that thing? So one of the things that I think many people miss, and by the way, it also drives me crazy because I get a lot of criticism on my videos where people will say, okay, you want a rant? I'll give you a rant. I almost did a video on this the other day. I had a guy email me and say, Steve, I just watched your video, and he gave me the video number. It was like 4.5. It's a video I did 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And he said, you misspoke. You said something that was grammatically incorrect. He said, you said in a sentence something or other, I versus something or other, me. And I forgot what the sentence was, but he said I had I'd used the wrong I versus me problem. And he goes, I assume you're going to go back and correct that. And he was serious. And I thought he was joking. So I wrote him back and said, yeah, I'll get right on that. And he goes, well, send me the link when you do. And I go, I thought you were joking. And he goes, no, I'm not joking. He goes, you make videos. And he goes, and when you make a grammatical mistake like that, it's a problem. He goes, because people watch your videos, and when they hear you say something that's grammatically incorrect, it's harmful. You need to take that video down and reshoot it because you made a grammatical mistake in there. And ironically, and I'm using that word correctly, in his email, he made a bunch of grammatical mistakes. So I took his email and I cut these things out and I said, look what you just did. He's like, oh, so we're going to go there now. And I'm like, go where? I'm a guy who sits in an empty room talking to himself and posts videos of it on YouTube. Who cares if I make a mistake once in a while? Because I'm not using a script. I'm just talking. And besides that, and this is the thing that drives me crazy, there's different kinds of English language, my friends, that if I'm in a courtroom, I'm speaking one way. If I'm writing a book, I'm writing a different way. If I'm sitting here talking to you people, I'm speaking differently altogether. So the idea that, no, you need to be using the King's English at all times, I got 2 words for you, and I can't say them out loud right now because I don't want this channel to get demonetized. And I'm family friendly. And I wrote the guy back, and I go, dude, stop watching my videos. Go away. I'm blocking your email now, and you are out of your mind. And the guy was serious. He thought I was actually going to go back and reshoot a video from 3 years ago because he perceived there to be a grammatically incorrect sentence in there. And by the way, one of the problems here is that what I'm saying when I'm speaking, you cannot see my punctuation. So you need to think about what I said to determine if it was possibly correct. Because, for instance, if I said to you, Bob and I were going to the store, blah, 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 blah. You go, oh, that's correct. Bob and I were going to the store. If I then said, well, the ball hit, Bob and I went to the store. That's grammatically incorrect. You said the ball hit Bob and I. Well, no. I abandoned that first sentence fragment and started a second sentence. So you can't always say that was grammatically incorrect because you don't know how I'm looking at it if, in fact, this is written out. So I'm not in the mood for that right now. Sorry. So here's the thing. If my video upsets you to the point where you're going to write me a nasty email and say that I've actually caused harm to the American public because I did something that you perceived as wrong. And by the way, my videos have now been viewed something like 60 million times on YouTube. And you're the only person who's taken the time to email me about that one video. Guess what? You're the problem, not me. So I'm done with that. So there you go. Okay. Mario, Mleksha, I actually like this rant. Thank you. Oh. Narnian Railway says, I saw a meme video where they demonstrated the same sentence could have 7 meanings just based on the word that was emphasized. Oh, no, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. So, I've actually had people say, Steve, you need to check your script on that. I don't have a script. What script? I know that I'm sometimes reading, like I'll read a news story, but when I put the news, especially when I take my glasses off, that, by the way, should be the key, okay? When I take my glasses off, I'm not reading anything because I can't read without my reading glasses on. So the idea that my script had a typographical error in it, no, it didn't. I don't have one. So, Dr. J, I think it's fair to expect that all of us should at least be aiming for correct grammar. And I agree with you on that, but I think that most people, and forgive me for thinking this, but I think most people, if you said, hey, have you ever watched that Steve Lehto guy on YouTube? You say, yeah, I've watched him. If somebody asked you and said, is his English usage better than average or below average compared to the people on the streets out there? Is his English usage better or worse? I think most people say that my grammar and usage is probably above average, probably. And if it's not, then I guess I have a horrible misunderstanding about my own abilities because, like I said, I've taught classes at the college level, graduate classes also. I've written a dozen books. I've written hundreds of magazine articles. And I also worked in radio many, many years. And so my language skills are pretty good. But again, if you want to sit there and nitpick something I said 3 years ago, hey, you made a grammatical mistake there. Move along, my friend. I'm not interested. So. Project design. All attorneys are wordsmiths. Actually, I know some who are better than others. I've actually met attorneys who write so well that like they're missing their calling. They should be writers, not attorneys. I know a couple who are they're wasting their skills writing legal briefs and so on. But what are you gonna do? Fred Stewart, hydrate, Steve. Chris Woodhouse, how do you comfort a grammar Nazi? There. That's a good one. Travis Kell, a person goes around correcting how people speak. Usually don't have a lot of friends. Betty Boop, are you writing another book? Not at the moment. I've got a couple projects I'm working on, but nothing has gotten to the point yet where I've decided to finish one. So Ghostwriter, I ain't interested in grammar Nazi, Steve Lehto. By the way, I will occasionally use ain't or other non-standard English words to make a point, but there's nothing wrong with that. You wouldn't use ain't in an unironic sense, like in a legal brief, but if you're trying to make a point, you might. In fact, I'm not sure if I've ever used ain't in court. I'd have no trouble using it in front of a jury, though, especially for emphasis. Someone did this, and someone wanted to get caught, but it ain't my client. Oh boy. To Kayla Tyson, are all your books still available for purchase? Not all of them. A couple of them are out of print. But if you want a copy of the book about the Chrysler Turbine car or the book about Preston Tucker, I have those. I've actually got some of those myself. If you email me, I can hook you up with signed copies. But any book I've got that's still available can be found on Amazon. And you feel free to buy them there if you want to. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. It ain't no thing, Nigel Carruthers. Vernon Turner, why is ain't not a word? Well, here's the thing. What's a word? It's in the dictionary. It's been in the dictionary for decades. So ain't is considered a non-standard English. Rob Scanlon, is it a cross or a crossed? There's some of those words that people mispronounce, and some of the mispronunciations have caught on. I can't think of any right now, but there's a bunch of them. But it's a lot of times it's people have heard words that they never see them spelled out. So, John Snape, did you give away the $100 bill yet? No, still on the set. John Ellis, ever included humor in a legal brief, and the judge laughed. Well, I wouldn't be there when they're reading the brief. I've said funny things in court before and gotten a judge to laugh. Can't think of one off the top of my head, though. LG, Steve, do you remember the movie about Tucker? Oh, of course. Tucker, the man in the dream. Was it at all accurate? Fairly accurate, although it opens up with a mistake. It starts out by saying that Tucker designed a gun turret in World War II, which he did, that was widely used, but he never got paid for it, which is not true. In fact, his gun turret was not used in World War II, but the rest of the movie generally is very good, and I believe accurate enough for Hollywood. It's a lot better than I would have expected. Let's put it that way. So, Gregory Barnes, the whole point is not perfect grammar. It's getting someone to understand the point you are conveying, and that, my friends, is correct. The whole point is communication. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you get my message? And I've said before, if you don't understand me, that's my fault. But remember, I'm not speaking to you as an individual. I hate to tell you this. I'm speaking to an audience. So a video I put up this morning, for example, just to give you an example, I put up a video this morning at 10 o'clock, and as of right now, it has 39,000 views. 39,000 views. So in that audience of 39,000 people who watched that video today, did all of them understand me perfectly? Probably not. Did most of them understand me perfectly? Probably. Was there anything I did that could have made the few people who didn't understand me better without costing me the other ones? That's where you start getting into a gray area. So you try to get your message across, and once in a while I've done something or said something where it turns out everyone was confused, and yeah, I screwed up. So, Tiger Stripes, ask and axe. And let me axe you something. JP says, I personally hate the word gifting. It's giving, not gifting. Yes, but you can often take a noun and turn it into a verb. To gift something. You're taking the word gift. And I know what you're saying, but keep in mind that happens. So for instance, if you have a loan, okay, a loan is something that you get when someone lends you money. And of course, now people say that someone loaned you money. Well, it used to be that lend was the verb, loan was the noun, but they turn loan into a verb also. So that happens. I would not use the word gift as a verb, I don't think, but I think it's happening. Jason Johnson, the pet peeve is the extra apostrophes. That's one that so few people understand. And many people are hammering away when they're upset and commenting on YouTube that they haven't got time to even think of the apostrophe belongs there or not. Stephen Shoemaker, love your videos. Thank you. John Ellis, my friend had a judge laugh when they read her filing calling the bank morons. See, that's questionable though, because some court rules will say specifically that you can't like name call in pleadings. And so you have to tap dance around how you do it. There's creative ways to do it, by the way. But actual name calling can get you a raised eyebrow at least, and sometimes even a little chastised by the judge, who might say, hey, it's inappropriate to put insults into a pleading. So Jason Johnson, hung versus hanged. That's one that's a distinction that I think we're losing right now, because a person who gets executed is hanged, but then you have like a hung jury. And I always forget, if I put a painting on the wall and I hang it there, it's been hanged, or was it hung? I don't know. Try fingers. I spoke clearly and correctly, but your hearing transposed my words. I like to say that, I'm not speaking too fast. You're listening too slowly. $90 knots. The law firm I used to work for told us that our PTO is a gift gifted to us and not accrued. And you probably know why they would do that. One reason would be is that if they fired you the day before the PTO got used, you couldn't say, well, you still owe it to me. They'd say, no, because you haven't accrued it. It wasn't gifted to you yet. The Chad, could you take a case in Mississippi? No, unfortunately, no. I'm only licensed in Michigan. And I get a lot of emails from people around the country asking me if I can help in other states. Sometimes I can give you general thoughts, but I can't even give you legal advice. So not really. So I apologize. My boy, Bud, I notice many YouTubers cannot say the B and subscribe. Yeah, I talk too fast. I know when I speed up, I lose a lot of consonants. Oh, boy. We do have 530 some odd people in the room, and some of them are odd. But I still have a thing. It's been up here the entire time. Your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect. So it's been telling me the entire time that we have no connection. I apologize. Philip Wrightshammer, do you ever get really mad? And if yes, why? I try not to. There was a time when I got upset by a lot of stuff. And as you get older, and I'm an old guy now, you discover that getting upset won't solve your problems usually. All it does is make you feel bad. Bond James, there were consonants strewn all over the road. Oh, boy. Betty Boop, Steve, thanks for the live chat. Have a great day. Dave Beeler, can a lawyer be licensed in more than one state? Yes. How many different states? As many as they can qualify for. You may have to take a bar exam in many of those states. Some states have reciprocity where you can get in if you've been behaving in your previous state. I've heard of lawyers licensed in 3 or 4 states. Beyond that would be a grind, because just knowing how the procedure works in each state is a nightmare. Good friend of mine named Justin, who's from Wisconsin, former student of mine. Now he's a lawyer in New York. I talk to him from time to time, and I'll ask him just jokingly, explain that to me how it works in New York. He'll tell me, like, oh my God, what a nightmare. So, John Snape, is there a car company that has the fewest lemons sold? Not really. It seems to be more based on how many cars they sell, but it also varies from place to place in the country too. Dave Beddoes, why is the "my learned friend" used in court? There are a bunch of those old sayings. You don't hear them as often anymore, but you'll often hear things about my brethren or my fellow attorney, and they'll often have these highfalutin terms they use to describe other attorneys or the court or the bench. And a lot of old school judges will do that, talking about the attorneys in front of them. But it's old school. It's probably going away on some level, but it's an attempt at keeping things respectful. I've had attorneys in court where if you said, Steve, there's no consequences for 5 minutes, you can do whatever you want, I just walk over and punch them. I wouldn't even talk to them. But you can't do that. So unfortunately, you've got to be polite and wait your turn and speak with reverence and so on. But you have to remember that you're in court to do something and get something done. If you're representing somebody or arguing a motion or trying to get a judge to rule a certain way, and so you have to let those emotions go away and just be polite. My esteemed colleague from another mother, Bender Fender. Duncan Campbell, wouldn't it be easier for a lawyer to hire a local lawyer who understands local rules? Well, that's what a lot of attorneys do. And so, for instance, and again, I don't want to be a judge, and I don't want to do what I'm about to tell you, but let's suppose someone called me up one day and said, Steve, I'm going to pay you $10 million. I want you to come to Mississippi and defend me in a criminal matter. I'm going to pay you $10 million. I got $10 million. I want you $10 million. What I would do, Duncan, since you raised it, I would then poke around, do some research, and find the best criminal defense attorney in Mississippi and tell him, I'm going to pay you $1 million to be my co-pilot. And you can be admitted pro hoc vice, which means that you can come into a court and if a local attorney will vouch for you and say, I know this person well enough to say that they're going to be okay, and I'm going to be here to make sure they don't screw up. So I would be counsel and the local counsel would be counsel, but I could, for instance, get up and argue in front of the court. But anytime anything came up procedurally, I could turn to this person and go, quick, what do I do now? And there are some attorneys who famously will try cases all over the country. And they're not admitted in every state they go into. They just find a local attorney who will do that with them. And that's how that works. And that's the best way to do it. It would be dangerous to do it otherwise. I really think so. So Mark Goggin asks about the situation of my cousin Vinny, where the judge approves the out-of-state lawyer. That I forgot what state that was supposed to be in, or do we even know? Great movie, but it's been a while since I saw it. But I can tell you that generally speaking, there would have to be another lawyer doing that for him. But again, there are other things in the movie that weren't exactly realistic either, but it's a great movie. So, Steven Shoemaker, have you ever been offered $1 million for a case? No, I have not. I've had people offer me money more than you'd think to handle a case that I wouldn't want to handle in a million years. And I'm proud to tell you that I will turn down a case regardless if I think it's something I should turn down. So, project design. Do you like John Grisham? I've never been a big fan of John Grisham's work. I've not read any books. I've seen the movies, and some of the movies seemed weak to me. I was kind of surprised they were written by an attorney, but they sell like hotcakes. So you know something? He's on to something. What can I tell you? Brown-eyed Texas girl. Have you ever seen a TV show that accurately reflects the legal world? I don't watch a lot of TV legal stuff. I've mentioned before that I like the movie Anatomy of a Murder. It's an old black and white film. Look it up. It's a little old school, but it's a fabulous movie. It was written by a guy who was a Michigan Supreme Court justice and is extremely, extremely good, especially when it came to the courtroom stuff. I've talked about the movie here before. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to go see it or to watch it. It's available on streaming services and so on. Anatomy of a Murder, Jimmy Stewart and so on. But it's a very good movie. I'd highly recommend that. So, Bart Foster, I believe Virginia is the only state you can pass the bar without a legal degree. There are others. I believe California has some methods where you can do it without having an actual JD, but it's difficult. But again, I'm not going to speak to all 50 of the states. And Bob Long points out the Marquette Courthouse is beautiful, and the courthouse is still there, and that is where they shot the movie Anatomy of a Murder. If you're ever in town, check it out, especially if you've seen the movie, because you can go in and see the exact courtroom where the movie was shot so many years ago. It's beautiful, and it's very, very cool. So, and Ron Groh, do you grade on the curve? I missed the start of class. In law school, I had to. Michigan history, I did not. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. We've been yakking now for almost an hour and 45 minutes, but I'm running out of steam, and I also ran out of the dihydrogen monoxide. So next Sunday, same time, same place. Until then, behave yourselves. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.